Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for hopping on live. For those of you who are new to this Facebook page and you don't know who I am, my name is Clarissa Rodriguez and I am an academic study strategist. And tonight I'm going to be talking about tutoring centers that a lot of colleges have on campus, and it's absolutely free to the students that attend. And specifically, I'm going to be talking about how you can utilize your tutoring sessions like a pro so that you walk out of every session understanding the materials with ease, knowing exactly what it is that you need to cover in order to pass your next exam, and so that you no longer have any learning gaps between what your professor is teaching in lecture and when you go back and do your own studying, your own reading, your own notes, and your own problem solving when you're studying on your own, either in your room or your dorm room or a library or coffee shop, wherever it is that you study. So one of the things that I want to clarify, first of all, is the difference between a teacher's role and the role of a tutor. Now, your teacher's role is to basically expose you for the first time to whatever subject it is that you're learning in that particular class. So they're taking you from point 0 of knowledge to point 100 of whatever that class is supposed to teach you. So at the beginning of every class, there's always some objectives that, tell you what the professor is going to teach you at the end of class. And they're there to take you and give you that knowledge from point 0 to whatever point it is that they want to get you to. Now that's different from the role of a tutor. What a tutor is there for is to basically consolidate all of that information for you or try to help you simplify it. And they're there to really build upon the topic that your professor already exposed you to and already shared with you. They're there to clarify anything that the professor said that maybe you didn't understand the first time hearing it, or maybe you're having a difficult time wrapping your mind around it. They're there also to fill in any learning gaps. So they're there to make sure that everything that you were supposed to learn in the class, you actually learned it. They're not meant to replace the professor. And most of the time too, what we have to keep in mind with these tutoring centers is that the students who are tutoring, they are themselves tutors. Yes, they had to meet a requirement of having a certain grade point average in that particular class, but they're not the professor. They didn't go out and get a teaching degree. They didn't go out to specifically teach this material. They're there just to help out, to help facilitate the learning process for students outside of the classroom. But what you have to keep in mind is that they are not your professor. So they're not going to have the same level of understanding on the subject as your professor would. So at the back of your mind, what I want you to keep in mind is that your professor should always be your first line defense. They should always be the first person that you go to seek for advice, go to their office hours. I understand that they are busy and they have thousands of students that they need to see, but really they're probably the first person that you need to go and see whenever you have any questions on the content being clarified. And then the tutors are your sort of second line of defense. They're there to help you, to facilitate, to be your safety net in case the professor does not have the ability, whether it be because of time constraints or whatever, to facilitate your learning process. So what I want to do right now that we understand the role of a tutor and how that differs from your professor, is I want to teach you how to actually make use of your tutors, because I'm sure that you've probably gone to the tutoring center at your school, you've set up an appointment, you've come to the tutoring session, and it's awkward. It's awkward because you don't know what you need. The tutor is not a mind reader, so they don't know what it is that you need. And at the end of it, you both kind of feel like you just wasted an hour of your time. The tutor feels awful because they didn't really help you, and you're mad at the tutor because you feel like the tutor didn't do their job. So what I'm going to do is help equip you on how to be a better student when it comes to these tutoring sessions, because at the end of the day, the only person that you can change, the only changes that you can make have to do with you and your approach to the tutoring sessions, because unfortunately you can't change that tutor that you have in that moment. So what my number one tip is for preparing for your tutoring session is to have a goal at the beginning of your tutoring session. So what I want you to do is whenever you book a tutoring session, I want you to show up to that tutoring session with a goal in mind. Now that goal can be to cover a specific topic area that was covered in that lecture this morning that you don't understand or that you had a difficult time understanding. It could be to get through a problem set that you've tried on your own and are having difficulty with getting the right answer, and you're looking at the solution but you're not able to figure out what the thought process was behind that solution. Have a goal to maybe, get through a chapter of the reading. Maybe it's a very difficult concept to understand. Maybe it's a poem, or maybe it's an essay that you want to get through. Maybe you want to have an outline of your paper that's going to be due in 2 weeks. But at the beginning of your session, you need to know what you want to accomplish. When you know what you want to accomplish, then you can express that to the tutor, and they can plan the tutoring session to make sure that at the end of that session that you have reached that goal or have gotten to a point where you're almost at reaching that goal by the end of the half-hour to an hour session that you had with that person. This is so important because when you go into it knowing what you want to expect, you know specifically what your tutor is going to help you with. They know what they need to bring to the table, and then you also know what you're bringing to the table, and there is a goal, there is a plan, and at the end of that you can evaluate whether or not you got your questions answered, whether or not you achieved the goal at the end of the session, and whether or not maybe you need to schedule another session. So the first tip is to always know at the beginning of your session what it is that you want to have completed at the end of that session. So then my second tip is to show up ready to get crap done, not to have crap done for you. This is probably one of the biggest mistakes that I see students making when it comes to utilizing the tutoring center, is that they show up expecting that the tutor is going to be there to give them all the answers. It's going to be there to write the paper for them. It's going to structure sentences for them. It's going to do the reading for them. It's going to answer questions for them. And or they expect the tutor to perform a miracle because they didn't schedule the tutoring session with enough time in advance, and they want the tutor to basically reteach the entire lectures and classes tonight because their exam is tomorrow. You need to show up to these tutoring sessions ready to get crap done, not get crap for you. Again, the role of the tutor is to fill in any knowledge gaps, to facilitate your thinking process, to facilitate you in understanding the material, but they're not going to do the work for you. You also have to show up prepared. And what does that mean? What does showing up prepared mean? Well, it's more than just showing up on time. It's more than just bringing the books and the notes and whatever it is that you're going to need to bring with you in order to work on the information, but it's also doing the pre-work, doing what you need to do as a student so that you can show up as prepared as possible. So that means that if you're going to go over any topics that were covered in class, you better be doing the reading. You better show up with notes done, with that chapter read, because in order for tutoring to be effective, you have to know exactly what it is that you're struggling with, exactly what it is that you don't understand. And your tutor can't reteach a whole lecture to you. What they're there to do is help consolidate the information, simplify the information, and they do better when they know exactly what it is that you're struggling with. So do the reading, take the notes, and let them know, I've done the reading, I've done the notes, here they are. This is the point in the chapter where I get confused, because earlier they were talking about this and now they're talking about this, and I don't know how the two relate, and I don't know how to make sense of it, and it's just, too high level of thinking for me at this time, and I need someone to help me simplify this topic. The same thing goes with any class where you're answering problems, any math courses, any physics courses, any chemistry courses. Try to do the problems on your own. Make a note wherever you get stuck. When you show up to the session, let the tutor know, this is what I understand so far. I've done this step, and this step, but but from here on, I don't know where to go. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to approach it so that I get the same answer as the book is giving me. Can you help me walk through this? When you can explain to your tutor your thought process behind what it is that you understand and how you understand it, they are better able to pinpoint where it is that you're missing the information, that you're missing the mark, where it is that you might be confusing yourself, or where it is that you're getting stuck, because you yourself have gone through the thinking process. You have gone through the process of trying to solve the problem. You have gone through the process of trying to understand the material, and now you're able to articulate what you know, what you don't know, what you get confused on, what you get stuck on, and the tutor can then pick up at that point and give you a more specific guideline. They can give you a more specific solution. They can give you a more specific way to think about solving the problem or think about the information, because you yourself have shown up prepared. So that's tip number 2 that I have for you. And then tip number 3, and it's the last tip, is to stay proactive and stay consistent when it comes to your tutoring sessions. I see many students showing up to the tutor a couple of days before the exam because they haven't studied up until that point, and they want the tutor to basically teach them all this information, and the tutor can't perform a miracle. I'm sorry, if you haven't done what you needed to do, if you haven't been studying up until this point, one tutoring session a couple of nights before the exam, it's not going to help you pass. And that's doing a disservice not only to yourself, but it's also wasting the tutor's time, because there's nothing that they can do for you in that hour. And some of them will be frank and tell you, I'm sorry, but I can't teach you 5 weeks worth of information in one night. It's just not going to work. You're going to feel frustrated. I'm going to feel frustrated, and it's not going to be a good tutoring session. So what you need to do is stay consistent. Stay consistent and proactive. Schedule your study sessions with enough time to be able to catch up on the information, catch up on the reading. Schedule your study sessions in a regular manner where you're keeping up with the content that's being covered in class, and that you're fixing those learning gaps pretty quickly so that a lot of time doesn't elapse, and so that you're not cramming and trying to learn everything a few nights before the exam, because again, it does a disservice to you as a student, but it also wastes the tutor's time, and they are a student themselves, and they have things that they need to study for, and they have other students that they're helping, and they also have classes that they need to do papers for and projects for, etc. And when you show up expecting them to perform a miracle, that's like slapping them in the face and basically wasting an hour of their time. And it's also wasting an hour of your time that you could probably spend cramming on your own. So I also want to wrap this up by just giving you some ideas on how you can utilize a tutor with your study session. So if you're going to, for example, the writing center, some of the things that you can do and work on with your tutor is to come up with a game plan on how to attack this 25-page paper that you're going to have due at the end of the semester. So they can help you kind of map out what needs to get done when, what you should be working on, how many days in advance should you be doing the editing, etc. You can also just bounce ideas off of them of topics that you want to talk about, that you're thinking about. You can let them know we're supposed to be writing a paper on infant mortality rates, and I'm supposed to take, a specific angle. This is what I'm thinking about, and just bounce ideas off of them with the topic. Sometimes just talking things out loud with other people helps your brain process information and helps you come up with what you want to write about. You can also ask them to read your paper out loud after you've written it. Sometimes hearing someone else read the paper lets you know how that person interprets it, what makes sense for them. Maybe there was a run-on sentence and you can hear it better when that other person reads it. You can also have them decipher comments on past papers that you've written, right? Maybe they can let you know, why you got the grade it was that you got based off of the comments that your professor left on your paper, and then give you some suggestions going forward on how you can continue to improve your writing process and your writing. They can also correct grammar for you, correct sentence structure for you, many things, edit the paper for you that they can do in the Writing Center and the Writing Center Tutoring. Now, when it comes to classes like, biology, or classes like, for example, chemistry and calculus, they can help you work through one problem, to help you walk through the steps, to understand why the steps are done the way that they're done, the rationale behind it, the thinking process behind it. And they can do one problem with you, and you can listen to them walk through the problem. You can listen to them think through things. And then they can be there to help you if you get stuck at any point. Again, they're not there to do the work for you, but they can definitely help you with how to think through solving problems. They can also help you simplify content. But again, it works best when you've already done your work, when you've gone to lecture, when you've done the reading, when you've taken your own notes, because now we know what you actually understand. And the tutor can just focus on any learning gaps that you have on that particular information, and they can help simplify it for you so that you understand it. They can also quiz you during these study sessions. So say you do have an upcoming exam in the next 2 weeks, they can test your knowledge on the information with your notes and be a sounding board for you in terms of, what do you really understand about this information? You can, teach things to them and see if you actually got a good understanding on it. So they can be kind of like a unofficial study partner for you inside of the tutoring center. So a lot of great ways that you can use tutors, but it's going to be the most effective when you show up prepared, when you have a goal, and when you're not using them at the last minute. That's really how you get the most bang for your college bucks, right? Because it's included in your tuition, and you should be taking advantage of it, especially if you're coming across difficult content or difficult subjects. Take advantage of the tutors, but understand that you're going to get the most out of it when you show up prepared. And it'll be a more pleasant experience for you, and you'll walk out of there feeling like you actually now understand the material and that you can go forward and continue to learn on your own. So I want to thank you all for jumping on live with me today, and I hope that you have a great night. Bye.